What's up, guys? I'm back. It's been a couple weeks. I've had a lot going on, so I haven't been making videos, and I need to get back into it. So last update I did, I was working on the CJ, and since then I had to stop working on the CJ because I have a couple chassis I need to get built, had a new project come in, and then I had a new machine show up, and then we had the week of King of the Hammers. So a lot's kind of changed, and so today I'm going to give you an update video of everything that's going on, and then we'll go from there. So it's a little bit of a mess in here. I have moved some things around. This table I moved, but then I ended up getting this whole setup that came with my new machine. So I'm gonna get rid of this, put the computer on this little rolling cart thing, and then it'll probably go in that corner somewhere. And then this is the new machine. So I finally bought a Dragon. It just wasn't really working out, driving an hour round trip away to cut out tubes and stuff, and I wanted to be able to do it all in-house here, so I got my own Dragon. So if you guys didn't watch one of my previous videos that I did on this machine that I was using at the other shop, this is a CNC tube machine. So it'll basically, I draw all the chassis out, or whatever, cages or bumpers, whatever I'm doing in CAD, and then it will cut out the tube. It has a Sharpie attachment on it that it'll mark like your bend lines and stuff. So it'll mark out some crosshairs that go in your die, what bend it is. So it's like bend 1 and it's 120 degrees. So it'll mark out all that information on it. It's got an engraver. I guess Bentech just came out with this one because they didn't used to have an engraver on the A250. So it now has an engraver, so I can etch part numbers, that kind of stuff into a tube. And then it's got a plasma on it, so it'll plasma notch the tubes kind of like this. And then you basically take it from this machine, go stick it in the bender, and bend it, and it makes assembly so much easier than doing everything by hand. So I got a new JD Squared Model 32 bender, and then I made just nothing crazy, just simple little bender stand that I'm gonna put some casters on, put another brace down, hang the dies on it, and call it a day. So it's kind of a mess in here right now. I'm trying to get organized, get everything set up. I just finished getting the Dragon all wired up and everything, airlines plumbed yesterday so that I can turn it on. And then once I get the machine all calibrated and everything, then I'll organize all the stuff in here. So then this is the new project that we got. It's a 1970s Toyota FJ. This customer has had this car for like 30 years or something crazy, and he's done a bunch to it. It's like all tubed in the back, and it's on 65 or 63, I want to say, wheel mount surface axles. So they're super narrow axles, and the cab of this is pretty wide, and you can see where the B-pillar is. It goes out where the B-pillar is, so it's really wide in that section of the car, and then it's super tall. This cage is really high, and he was running 39s on it, I want to say, and he was rubbing on the corner of the frame, rubbing on the control arm, and he wanted to go to these 43s. So this chassis just really isn't going to work for what he wants. And so basically what we're going to do is we're going to tear everything off of this car and put it in a new chassis, and it's going to be pretty much an entirely new car, just with all the same parts that are on this. Then over here we've got the new 3-seat portal chassis that I'm building for a customer. He was nice enough to let me take it out to King of the Hammers to do some advertising, so I've got to finish welding on all the bracketry and everything. Everything's just kind of tacked on there right now, just mocked up. Gotta finish the upper shock mounts on it, mount the fuel cell, mount the motor, transfer case, all that kind of stuff, and then this is going to him. And then I've got 2 other chassis to make, so that's why I'm trying to kind of get the machine set up. The FJ is going over to my good buddy Russell's house. He's gonna do the disassembly for me, get all the drivetrain pulled out. That way I can start taking measurements and everything for the new chassis. And while he's doing that this week, I'm gonna work on getting the machine finished, set up, the bender all set up, and then I'm gonna start cutting out those 2 other chassis that I have to build. And hopefully, I'm waiting on the transmission to transfer case adapter for the 3-seat portal car. So once that shows up, then I'll be able to mount the drivetrain in that. Hopefully by the time I get all those things done, the FJ will be ready to start working on that. So I've been working all morning trying to get this organized in here. I think I've got it kind of figured out. I built a little table stand thing for the plasma and for the control box. And then I got the computer for the Dragon. That way I can like kind of roll that around, and then that leaves this whole area right here to do whatever grinding assembly. So it's definitely pretty small in here, but I like it. It's cozy. Everything kind of fits where it needs to, and I still have room to work on a car in here, and then I have the whole outside area to do stuff too. So. All right, so this is gonna be a little bit of a weird video. I don't really have a whole lot going on this week. Kind of just getting the machine set up, getting ready for all the work I've got to do, so not really a whole lot to do a video of. But I wanted to take kind of this week to do a little video about myself. So for those of you that are interested about me and where I came from and everything, this video will be a little bit about me. I don't have a ton of time of just like sitting around and not doing anything. Take time to try to make like an hour-long video of talking about myself. So right now I'm going down to a buddy of mine's shop to see his place and see if I could use a little bit of space there. So it's like 40 minutes away from my house, so I figured this was a good time to talk a little bit about myself. So I grew up in Riverside, California. I grew up pretty much doing anything action sports, so like BMX bikes, skateboarding, riding dirt bikes. I raced dirt bikes for a while. And then when I was 16 and a half or whenever, I got my driver's license or got my permit. And ever since then, I've been into trucks and four-wheel drive and that kind of stuff. So my first truck was a 1996 F-150 extended cab long bed. And at that time, I was kind of into drifting, so I thought my F-150 was a drift car. And like 6 months, probably not even that, probably like 4 months after getting my driver's license, I rolled the truck on a dirt road. So after that, my parents didn't let me get another car, even after the insurance paid me out for it, until like 6 months later. So 6 months later, I went out and bought a Jeep Cherokee because my brother was into Jeeps, and I think he had a Grand Cherokee at the time, and was trying to get into like actual four-wheeling. It was on 33s, and at the time 33s were cool. Like if you had 33s on your Jeep, you actually did some wheeling. Now 33s are like street tires. My timeline is horrible, but I had that Jeep for a little while, and then was going to a local track for drift night and was into like drift cars. So I bought a BMW E36. My plan was to make it into a drift car. That never happened. Pretty much straight piped it, lowered it, put some wheels and tires and a pretty good stereo in it, some subs, and that was about it. That was my drift car. And then out of high school, I worked for my dad. He had a automotive parts testing business. So it was basically a business that we had companies in Japan and Taiwan and China that would send us aftermarket parts to be tested on US model cars. They would send us the parts, we would source the car, test the part on it, and then provide a report for them, whether the parts worked, whatever. So I did that for about a year, I'd say. And then I enlisted in the Marine Corps. I joined at 19, and I talked to a recruiter, and I wanted to be a helicopter mechanic. And me being a dumb 18-year-old kid, I just said, I want to go into aviation maintenance. And the recruiter was like, cool. So he basically put me in open contract aviation maintenance, which open contract, if you don't know, is basically when you get through boot camp, they can put you in whatever MOS, military occupational specialty, that they want, whatever they need people in. And so me saying I wanted aviation maintenance, he basically put me in open contract aviation maintenance. So I got out of boot camp and was told, you're going to be a ground support equipment mechanic. And I was like, what the hell is that? So basically, ground support equipment is you're attached to an aviation unit, but you don't touch the aircraft. You don't do anything with the aircraft. You work on basically the tow tractors that pull the aircraft, the mobile electric power plants that power the aircraft when it's on the ground, portable hydraulic power supplies, basically all the equipment that works on the aircraft, but you don't touch the aircraft at all. So immediately I was like, that sucks, but it is what it is. So my whole goal going into the military is I wanted to be enlisted as an aviation maintenance mechanic. I wanted to, work on the planes, whatever, learn the plane. And then my plan was to be in for like 5 years and then go to college, get my degree, and then go to officer candidate school and become an officer. And my really long-term goal was to fly. I wanted to be a pilot. So I joined pretty much to travel, and after 5 years, I didn't get to go anywhere. I didn't deploy anywhere. I didn't really do anything. I was stationed in Jacksonville, North Carolina for pretty much the whole time. I went to boot camp in San Diego, California. Then my A school was in Pensacola, Florida. And then after that, I got sent to Jacksonville, North Carolina, where I pretty much spent the rest of the time. I went to like Yuma, Arizona for a while. Then I went to 29 Palms, California for like 6 months. But pretty much my whole time was spent in Jacksonville, North Carolina, which uh, was cool getting to go to the complete other side of the United States. Because living in California my whole life, it was definitely a huge change. People are actually nice. The weather was a lot different. But after the 5 years, I pretty much decided that wasn't really what I wanted to do. I hated being told you're going to do one thing and then at 5 minutes notice it changes, and I just didn't really want to stick with that. About 6 months away from getting out, I got married. My wife and I got married in a courthouse because we didn't really want to wait any longer. And once I got out, I was going to move in with her, and I didn't want to move in with her until we were married. So we got courthouse married in Jacksonville. And then 6 months later, I got out, moved back to California where she was running her business. So backtracking a little bit, my wife and I met in probably 8th grade or 9th grade. So junior high, high school, right in that time, we met because I was into skateboarding and I had a friend that had a sister, and his sister was friends with this girl, Amber. And way back then when I was in junior high, I was like, damn, this girl's hot. So she was my friend Shane and his sister Shelby and this girl Amber would always go skating around. So I would hang out with them, go skateboarding, and I was always into this girl, but she was always with somebody else. I was always with somebody else, and we kind of just were friends, but I was always secretly into her. So then fast forwarding back to when I was in, we've talked over the years, kept in touch and everything. So we started dating when I came out to Yuma, Arizona, and she was in California. So I came out to Arizona. She came and visited me for the first time since I had been in. We hadn't seen each other in, I don't know, a couple years. So then after that, we started dating. We did the whole long distance thing. She flew out to North Carolina like almost once a month, which was insane looking back. We spent so much money on plane tickets, and it was worth it. So we got married 6 months before I got out, and then I got out and moved in with her, and happily ever after. So then this was 2020. I got out right as COVID struck. My last like 2 weeks of being in, they cut the unit down to like limited personnel or whatever. Basically anybody that was close to getting out, they just said stay home, basically get your stuff packed up, get ready to get out, really. So my last 2 weeks of being in, I was still at home, and then I had probably a month of terminal leave saved up, which is like your leave, and when you're going to get out, it's just like you take the leave that you have saved up at the end of your contract or whatever. So I got out probably 2 months early before my contract actually ended. So came home, that was 2020, COVID and everything. That was super weird. And so at that time, I started working for my dad's company again that I had done before I was in. And he decided that he was going to hand the company down to me because I had, experience of doing all the testing, doing all reporting, whatever. He taught me a lot. And so I ran that for, I don't know, probably a year or so, but always knew that it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. I've always been interested in owning a business and running a business and everything, but at the time, it was a lot having to do the work, the reporting. We had 2 other employees, so kind of learning to manage employees and stuff. It was just a lot, and I always had the desire, even when I was in aviation maintenance, I always tried to go to welding school, and I just never worked out. I could never go. So always had the desire to learn how to weld and do fabrication and stuff like that. So running my dad's business taught me a lot about business. managing employees, doing all the accounting for the business and everything, payroll, that kind of stuff. Taught me a lot, but I really wanted to do like off-road fabrication stuff. So I decided to find a school and try to use my GI Bill to learn how to weld. So I went to the Fab School in Rancho Cucamonga for their welding and fabrication program, and that was 9 months long. I did night classes, so I was doing the business, running that during the day, which was out in Orange County in like Fullerton, Anaheim area, and then come home to Riverside for like an hour, eat dinner, and then go to school in Rancho Cucamonga at night. So I did that for probably 4 months, and it was way too much. Doing like 4 hours, if not more, of driving a day, and going to school at night and whatever. I just decided it was too much. So I told my dad, I was like, hey, this is just not really what I want to do. I want to do welding and fabrication. So he said, all right, well, I have this other company that is thinking about buying out the company. And so if that's what you want to do, we can sell it. And then you could just do your own thing, no harm, no foul. It's, you got to do what you want to do. And so that was the decision I made at the time, which looking back now, I'm like, man, that was kind of dumb. I should have just found people to run it, and then that could have been a source of income, and then I could have started another company in fabrication. But you live and learn, and I don't think I am where I am without that experience. So then as soon as we sold the business, I still had a couple months left of fabrication school. So I went to a shop called Rock Bottom Off-Road, which was right across the street from my house at the time. And on my way home from leaving the shop in Orange County for the last time, I stopped by at the shop Rock Bottom just to see if they were hiring a fabricator, welder, whatever. I was far enough into school that I knew how to weld pretty decent. I knew how to fabricate a little bit, and felt confident enough to walk in there and say, hey, are you guys looking for a fabricator? And pretty much on the spot, they were like, yeah, we are. So they gave me a little weld test. I did some TIG welding, did some MIG welding. They were like, yeah, you're cool. You're hired, pretty much. So I started working there, and in school we did pretty much all TIG welding. The school was pretty much based around like trophy trucks and like off-road racing and that kind of stuff, and all their stuff is TIG welded. So I was pretty decent at TIG welding. MIG welding was like, I'm like, I could do it, but I'm not great at it. So one of the guys, Steve there, taught me pretty much his technique of welding, and I picked it up pretty quick. Started welding just like him within, I'd say, a couple weeks or so. And pretty much ever since then, I've been doing primarily MIG welding. So I got pretty decent at MIG welding, did a lot of cages, bumpers, rock sliders, all that kind of stuff. And that's when I learned to use the Bentech Dragon. And then I stayed there for probably, I think in total I worked for them for about 2 years. Over that course of time, went from really just barely knowing how to fabricate to being a pretty decent fabricator. I learned to use the Dragon, learned to use the plasma table, and really got into more like designing parts. And man, this California traffic just absolutely sucks. So after working for them for like 2 years, I really just kind of thought to myself that I really want to own a business. At that time, I was kind of starting to think, man, I should have kept my dad's business and then just kind of started something else. But just really realized that I wanted to work for myself and wanted to be in complete control of the business. I decided to build my first complete tube chassis car, kind of like a Ultra 4 style go fast car / rock crawler. So Steve had a chassis at the time that he was going to build, and so I decided to pull some measurements off of it, kind of take some parts and pieces, but then kind of make my own chassis. So I finished that car, went to King of the Hammers, wheeled it probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 times, not really a whole lot. I wheeled it for like probably half a season. Really wanted to start my own business and build rock crawlers, build tube chassis, design cars. And so I threw my car up for sale. I wanted a certain amount and everybody just kept lowballing me, whatever. And I had put a lot of money into the car, so the amount that I wanted for it wasn't really like profiting a ton. It was kind of just getting my money out of the parts and then a little bit of time. And so I decided to part out the car because I realized I was going to make more money in the parts by selling them individually rather than selling it as a complete car. So I basically sold the chassis, all the panels and everything that were on it. I sold like the fuel cell, the coilovers, sold the motor, transfer case, axles, pretty much everything else to the customer that I'm building the CJ for. So the CJ is pretty much going to be my old buggy as far as all the drivetrain, the axles and everything go, but with the CJ tub. That's pretty much where I am now. Since about December, I've been fully on my own. I bought a couple machines, as you guys have seen, but I'm just kind of doing what I can with the space that I have. I am out of my backyard. I have a little shop. I have like the driveway and everything. So I've decided to put my money into all the machines and equipment and everything so that I can make money instead of building a car and having a fun toy. So that pretty much gets us caught up to where we're at now. So last August, my wife and I had our first baby, little baby girl, Paisley. She's 5 months, like 5.5 months old now. My wife has ran an in-home daycare for about, probably 8 or 9 years now. So she's been very familiar with kids and taking care of them and all that. So this has been the first time that she's been able to take some time off and just take care of the one. So that's been nice, her not having to work anymore, but a little more stressful for me because I'm the one that's got to be the money maker and pay the bills. So hope you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit about me and where I came from and all that. So the next video will be hopefully getting back to work and doing some actual building. But until then, keep it classy and I'll catch you next week. Oh my gosh.